What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. It's time to look back on our Big 12 predictions from the preseason, and I don't really think anyone expected this conference to go the way that it did. A lot of people were high on Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Baylor. No, it was Kansas State, TCU in the championship game. I had Oklahoma and Baylor in the Big 12 championship. I believe I picked Oklahoma to win that game. And obviously it didn't go that way. Both of those teams finished 6-6. But like I said, most people missed in the Big 12 pretty bad. I actually think my predictions were decent here. If you look at the over-under, my picks against the over-under win totals, I got 7 out of the 10 right. So I'm pretty happy about that. And I did talk about these two teams, Kansas State and TCU, in the preseason as being potential dark horses in this conference. Sure didn't expect both of them to make it where they did, but I had a feeling that maybe one of them would, but I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't make that prediction, and I was wrong. Well, let's take a look at those predictions now. Here are the records, and I think in the Big 12, you can really tell a lot from these one-score games as far as the teams that overperformed and the teams that underperformed. It was really how they did in these one-score games. And we're going to do another video series on that. That'll be coming up here really soon, where we really look at those one-score games, and I'll talk a lot more about that there. But you see TCU 5-0 in one-score games. Texas Tech 4-0. Both of those teams overperformed from where they were expected to be. Again, TCU, Kansas State in the championship game. Then you had Texas Tech, and Oklahoma State at 7-5. Both of those teams had Texas Tech overperformed. Oklahoma State, I think most people had them a little bit lower, or a little bit higher, I should say. They were a little bit lower than most people's expectations. A team that went to the Big 12 championship game the previous season. But let's go now and look at the other predictions here. Starting with TCU. So I had them at 8-4. So I was pretty high on the Horned Frogs. Not 12-0 high, obviously, but I thought they had a chance to be a pretty good team this year, maybe a top 25 team. Athlon, you see, they had them all the way down at 6-6, and the over/under was at 6.5. So while I did miss, I was 4 games off, I was still closer than I think most people were on this team. They were not good in 2021, so 8-4 would have been a very solid season, but they went way past that, of course, going 12-0 in the regular season, and now they're in the college football playoff. Kansas State, I had them at 7-5. Athlon, give them some credit here. They had them at 8-4. They were only 1 game off. The over/under was at 6.5. So I did, again, beat the over/under there. I thought this would be a pretty good team, but not quite up to 9-3. And I see 7-5. For some reason, I thought I had them at 8-4, but I guess I had them at 7-5. So again, this is a team that had a lot of experience coming back this year. You bring in Adrian Martinez, and there was, I think, there were some things there to where you thought maybe Kansas State could have a good season, but getting to the Big 12 championship, didn't really expect that. And again, Athlon a little bit more accurate on this team. They were just 1 game off. We go to Texas now. 8-4 was their record. I predicted them to go 8-4. Athlon had them at 7-5. The over/under was at 8.5, so I was under that. So we got that correct, and again, got the record actually right on the money. And this is a team that struggled in the one-score games. 2-4 in one-possession games. If they just win a couple more of those, Texas is at 10-2. Texas probably in the Big 12 championship game, and perhaps the Sugar Bowl. Probably, I guess they would have probably been in the Sugar Bowl. So it could have been a much different year for them if they would have just won a couple of those one-score games. If they were Big 12 conference games, that is. All right, now about Texas Tech. This is a team that really overperformed this season. I had them at 6-6. Athlon had them at 5-7. So I was closer, only off by 1 game. The over/under at 5.5, so we were correct there as well. And it's a team that I thought would be pretty good this year, but you look at those one-score games again, they were 4-0. If you split those, they were 5-7. So it could have very easily been a different season for Texas Tech. They pretty much reached their best case scenario in going 7-5 and wound up finishing number 4 in the Big 12. Oklahoma State, I picked them to go 8-4, same as Athlon. The over/under was at 8.5. So again, we would have been correct with the over/under there and going under that 8.5. They really didn't seem like, I don't know. You see the 7-5 record. I guess it's because of how they finished, but looking back, do you really think this was a 7-5 type team? I mean, they were not very good down the stretch. I would argue, Oklahoma, Baylor had a better season than Oklahoma State, but no, Oklahoma State actually did go 7-5, so that's a bit surprising. Again, my record was 8-4, so there were so many people saying that, man, you hate Oklahoma State, 8-4, they're going to be way better than that, and I actually overrated this team. They were 7-5, and I had them at 8-4. So yeah, Oklahoma State, and now you've got players transferring. I mean, half their roster, it seems like, transferring. A lot of starters. I don't know what's going on with Oklahoma State, but if they don't get some guys back in the portal, it could be a rough year for them next year. And let's now move on to the rest of the teams. Baylor, Oklahoma, and Kansas all at 6-6. West Virginia 5-7. Iowa State 4-8. You look at a team that definitely underperformed. Oklahoma, look, 0-4 in the one-score games. You split those, you're 8-4. It's a pretty good season. They just could not win those close games. Kansas, on the other hand, 3-1 in the one-score games. So they maybe overperformed a little bit. Oklahoma underperformed. Kansas overperformed as far as the final overall record goes. And again, a lot of one-score games in the Big 12. Look at Iowa State, 1-6 in one-possession games. So they definitely underperformed. You win a couple of those games, you get to a bowl game. So it was, they just could not win those close games this year, only winning one of them. Let's look back at our predictions. So for Baylor, I had them at 9-3. Athlon had them at 9-3. This is a team that had a lot of hype coming into this year, and they just didn't get it done. They would have had to have won all of their one-score games just to get to 9-3. The over-under was at 7.5, so Vegas, they were right on Baylor. They were definitely closer than most people. Again, I was at 9-3, Athlon was at 9-3, so we missed on the over-under with them. And same thing with Oklahoma. Actually, we were correct on the over-under. The over-under was at 9.5 for the Sooners, so 9-3 was still under that. So we would have been correct as far as the over-under goes, but just did not see a 6-6 season coming at all from this team. Thought that Brent Venables was going to get their defense turned around, but that did not happen. The offense was actually pretty good. Again, it was the defense that struggled for Oklahoma, and they just couldn't win those close games. A lot of times, though, you see teams that have a season like this and they lose a lot of close games. Those games flip the next year. So Oklahoma, potential for them, if they can reload in the transfer portal and recruiting and all that, potential for them to maybe have a much better year next year. There's Kansas. I picked them to go 3-9. Athlon had them at 4-8, and they wind up at 6-6. I did pick them to win a conference game, but that's as far as it goes because we were off on this team. But the over-under was only at 2.5, so if you go by our predictions, we actually did beat the over-under here. They went over that 2.5, just like I predicted. But again, 6-6, that's 3 games off for my prediction. As we I just didn't realize how good Kansas was going to be. I knew they would be improved, not a horrible team. I said that in the preseason, but didn't see them getting to a bowl game at all. West Virginia, I had at 6-6. Just missed the mark on them. They were 5-7. You just slip one of those one-score games around to a win, and they would have been 6-6. But look, Athlon was at 7-5. So West Virginia definitely had a disappointing season. The over-under, though, was at 5.5. So Vegas was right on this team as well. Look at Baylor. Look at West Virginia. I would say Vegas was really good on those two teams. And I was on the wrong side of that over-under here at 6-6. And then finally, we have Iowa State. Just talked about it a second ago. So many losses in these one-score games. 6 losses in one-score games. Maybe Iowa State's the team that has the big turnaround next year. My prediction for them was 4-8, though. So they were exactly what I predicted them to be. They were probably better than I expected them to be, but the record did work out for me because they were 4-8. But this was not a 4-8 team if you watch them this year. Really good on defense. They really were probably more of like a 6-6 team. So I was right as far as the record goes, but really I was wrong. Like I said, they were better than I expected them to be. And then Athlon, they had them at 7-5, so they were way off the mark. I expected them to actually be pretty good this year. The over-under was at 6.5, so we were correct going with the under there. And just a really young, inexperienced team, and I think that's what you get. A lot of these younger, inexperienced teams struggle in the one-score games. Look at Oklahoma, a lot of new faces on their roster. Look at TCU, kind of a veteran team. Kansas State, kind of a veteran team. They won a lot of one-score games, so maybe there's something to that. So these were my predictions for the Big 12. Again, not great, but compared to other people's predictions, I actually think I did a pretty good job on the Big 12. How did you do? What were your predictions? What did you miss? What did you get right? Let me know your thoughts on all this down in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports College Football Channel.